Hello, Year 9, and yesterday we were welcoming you back. Happy Mondays. Today we are on to our Tuesday's day of learning. Okay, my lovely, so we know we've shifted our focus from reading to writing, and yet what I really want us to get by the end of this is the overlap between actually reading, writing, and thinking. That these three elements are crucial not just to give us success in English, but actually for the way that we can contribute our ideas, our voice to the bigger story of wherever we find ourselves in life, whether that's a future job, in exam seasons, even just at home. We are thinking, speaking, and yet writing more than we realize. But what we're going to bring our focus to this week really is the practice of writing. So that actually, when we are ready to commit our ideas and words down, to the page, that we can do it in a way that is accurate, slick, clear, intelligent, all those lovely things we already know about you, but we want them to come across when people read your writing. So we introduced yesterday that concept that we are going to be looking at how we kind of gave this little title, Practicing Writing Skills, and then underneath, I'm not writing, I'm thinking out loud on paper. And we took a journey that was inspired by images. But because we're making this link between what we've read and how we write, I just want to explicitly take a moment to remind you of your knowledge organizer that was sent out by Miss Reed. And you can see that we're going to link from what we've read in previous learning into what we're thinking about for our writing today. And in particular, we're going to focus on how we can use some of the vocabulary from where we've been to inform our writing. And we're going to be using those skills, that vocabulary, to make us better writers. And what we're particularly going to look at for our first task is a mastery task. Now, it says here that you need to choose the best word to complete each sentence. Now, guys, I don't necessarily want you to write these sentences out. It is enough just to do this by engaging with me on screen or to make a note of the right word that you would use to complete the gaps. Okay, so as you can see on to my left, we've got 3 sentences that are missing a crucial vocabulary word. Now, all of these sentences were inspired by the pictures we looked at yesterday. So it is also getting us to think back to those images from the wheat fields that we were looking at. But you'll see on the other side of the page, glassy, irrecoverably, sinister, anachronistic, so that the choices for our vocabulary are going to come from what we've read. So we're seeing that overlap, that lovely overlap, that what we read can make us better writers. Okay, so I'm going to read the sentences to you, then you can pause the screen and decide which vocabulary item you think would best complete the sentence. Okay, so here we go. The thresher was a beast. Its eyes were 2 small square windows, blank and expressionless as it devoured the wheat. So which word do you think would best complete that sentence? Anachronistic, sinister, irrecoverably, or glassy? Right, in a minute you'll get to pause and write down what you think the answer is. Okay, next one. Above the field of harvested wheat, the clouds gathered, turning a dark and grey. So which of our 4 vocabulary items would best complete that sentence? Okay, and our third one, harvest time could be both the best and the worst of times. The cutting and threshing of the wheat seemed cruel, and yet without this cull we could not survive the winter. So again, which word would you choose? Now, you could only choose one word once, okay, so you couldn't fill all of these in with glassy, and there are right answers to this task, okay? There isn't a, well, I think it could be. There will be a right or wrong answer that we will share in a minute, okay? Now, I'm just going to show you the next group of sentences, and then we will go through the answers together. So, this time we're picking on the words myth, inexplicable, impregnated, and hoax. So the air was with the smell of wheat. It was a strong woody scent that saturated your clothes and hair. Next sentence. The teenagers were brought up on the abandoned hut within the field and the terrible things that had happened to those that had lived there. Third one. There was some beauty in the sunset that was. Okay, so you're going to pause the screen. You can look back at the previous slide as well, and you're going to make your vocab choices. Speak to you in a minute. Okay, lovely people. So, what did we choose for sentence one? The thresher was a beast. Its eyes were two small square windows, blank and expressionless as it devoured the wheat. Absolutely brilliant. It's glassy. So, its eyes were two small square windows, glassy and expressionless as it devoured the wheat. And when we see the photos again in a minute, I was looking at that green thresher machine and I did think that those two square windows look like eyes. Okay, next one. Above the field of harvested wheat, the clouds gathered, turning a dark and grey. Okay, so we know it can't be glassy. Now, irrecoverably actually is an adverb, and we're looking here really for an adjective, okay, a describing word, not an adverb, which is our ly word there, irrecoverably, that tells us how something was done. So, which one did you go for? Absolutely sinister. So turning a dark and sinister grey, the idea that something harmful or evil is coming in those clouds. Brilliant. And third, we've got harvest time could be both the best and the worst of times. The cutting and the threshing of the wheat seemed irrecoverably brilliant, irrecoverably cruel. And yet without this coal, we could not survive the winter. So in other words, the cutting of the wheat cannot be changed. It cannot be reversed. You can't make the wheat and recover it and get it to stand up again. So this is an irrevocable moment, this harvesting. Brilliant. Okay, so next one then. The air was brilliant, impregnated. Lovely. So this is the idea that the air was impregnated with the smell of wheat. Brilliant. Okay, what about this next one? Okay, so we said the teenagers were brought up on the myth, brilliant, of the abandoned hut. And last but not least, there was some beauty in the sunset that was, well, it can't be hoax because we'd need the A hoax, but instead, absolutely, it's inexplicable. There's something explicable about the beauty. Brilliant. Give yourself a mark for everyone you got right. That's a brilliant little warm up, and it shows us the relationship between what we're reading in other lessons and how we can use it to make us better writers. Okay, so remember these images? We're looking at using images to inspire writing. So we're just going to quickly use these to anchor ourselves back in what we were looking at yesterday. So we've got this lovely image of a threshing machine. Now these images are all actually from Kansas in America, okay? These are the wheat plains of Kansas, absolutely beautiful. These landscapes stretch across that state of Kansas in America for miles and miles. They're seemingly endless, okay? Now, 90% of Kansas is its landscape of wheat plains, so they make up 9/10 of the environment. Okay, guys, so we've got this reminder then we're going to be inspired to do some writing about this beautiful landscape. It might have made you think of loneliness, alienation, or something mysterious and beautiful, but it's 90% of Kansas in America's landscape, these amazingly beautiful wheat plains that really do just sprawl on endlessly. Now, we did see one of the images from yesterday's grain elevators, okay? So these big industrial looking units smack bang in the middle of this natural landscape. So it's a lovely actual visual example of that idea of juxtaposition where two seemingly contrasting things are placed next to each other. We've got the metallic industrial building there, the grain elevators, okay, and these beautiful natural sea of gold and wheat with the breaking of the sun. Okay, now these grain elevators are part of the industrial buildings that are built across Kansas to help with the production element of this harvest. So the wheat is harvested and then it's produced, it goes under production to produce flour. Okay, and by the end of mid-September, we want the end of the growing season, and the time to harvest has to be done by mid-September when the weather might change and make it impossible to harvest or to potentially ruin the harvest. So this final image with this ominous, sinister grey sky reminds us that sometimes things are kind of controlled by time. We have to hit a pointed time or our best laid plans can be thwarted. Okay, so in Kansas, that season really they've got to be harvested and complete the harvest by mid-September. Okay, so we had those beautiful images to inspire our writing. Now, we also looked in previous lessons at the idea of categorizing, comparing, contrasting. So just some quick thinking questions for us, just to remind us of those skills. So what is the link? What is the category that we could put all of these images under? We could categorize them as all being images linked to nature and a particular wheat, fields of wheat, or to Kansas. But how are two of these pictures linked? What can you see as a link? What is the similarity? The comparative element. What makes one picture different? What makes one picture stand out to you, creating that contrast? Now, this is just to get you thinking again about these images, because in a minute you're going to select one. Okay, and that's just to get you thinking which of these images maybe stands out as being a bit different, capturing your attention, which of these ones are quite similar, because in a minute you are going to choose and commit to writing about one. Okay, so we've already used yesterday's lesson to visualize, okay, to think about these pictures in terms of because, but, so, to get you thinking about what you see. And we've done that. You did some brilliant little planning sentences yesterday. So today we're going to do the last stage of our planning, and we're going to use the skill of summarizing now to help us shorten and select the most important ideas to help you plan the content that you might use to write about one of these images. So to help us do that, a quick little reminder that when we talk about summarizing, we're answering the what questions often. What am I writing about? What do I want my reader to learn? What am I teaching? What ideas will I develop? Yes, there's a how and a where in there, but primarily when we summarize, we're looking at what. Now, what questions tend to be answered by nouns? So quick recap, can you remember nouns? So we've got three types of nouns. The name of things, location, and objects are our common nouns. I'm sat surrounded by common nouns. There's a mug of coffee next to me. I've got speakers for sound. I've got my laptop. I've got my telephone. I've got a chair, a table, a cushion, a cat. Lots of common nouns. Okay, but we also remember that we've got the proper nouns. Okay, now these often still answer the question what, but they might be the names and the official titles of people. They might be the names of places. So I've already introduced that all of our images now are under the category of Kansas, the Kansas wheat plains. Okay, so that Kansas, that proper noun names the place. It'll have a capital K. I'm Mrs. Deutsch, capital D, capital M. Okay, but we also use those images to get us thinking about the third type of nouns, abstract nouns. Now, these are the words that name our ideas, emotions, states. So we were trying to link yesterday those pictures to feelings, mysterious feelings, maybe feelings of alienation, loneliness, beauty. So what we're going to do to put this into practice, and I'm going to ask you just to bear with me one more minute, and you're going to pause and answer these or do this task for me. So I want you to look again at the pictures, and I want you to choose your favorite picture. And for that picture in your book, on a piece of paper, I want you to do the following three things. Number one, I want you to list 5 common nouns as you look at that picture. The name of 5 things, locations, objects that you can see in that picture. I'm already told you that the proper noun I'd like you to write down, okay, is that these images are from the wheat plains of Kansas in America. Now, I want you to write that down so you don't forget. For the number 2, you've just got to write Kansas, America. And from number 3, I want you to choose a feeling that you want to create in the atmosphere of your writing. So once you write this down today for one picture, you're committed to writing about that picture, the 5 things we're going to list in a minute, and in a way that creates a particular feeling. Okay, now I'm going to just show you mine to give you a clue of how you could set yours up or what it's going to look like. So you're going to pause in a minute and do this. Here are my 5 common nouns in my blue. So I've got the sky, the yard, the house, the horizon, and wheat. I've got my proper noun, Kansas, America, just up there in the corner to remind me. And I've gone for the theme, the abstract idea of loneliness. So you're going to pause now, and when we come back, you're going to have decided on 5 common nouns, made a note of the proper noun that this is happening in Kansas, America, and you're going to choose your emotion. Off you go, guys. Speak to you in a minute. Okay, lovely people. So summarizing is also about just thinking about the story of your image, okay? So when you want to summarize an image, you need to trust your eye to guide you. In other words, when you look at your chosen image now, I want you to list the things that stand out to you. So I want you to copy and complete these sentences as you look at your image. In the beginning, my eye is drawn to. So what's the first thing your eye goes to? Every time you look at that image, there will be something that your eye is drawn to. So I want you to copy and complete this sentence. In the beginning, my eye is drawn to. Next, my eye goes to. In the end, my eye goes to. In the end, I'm looking at. So guys, you're going to pause there and complete those 3 sentence stems for your image. Okay, lovely people. So my sentences, in the beginning, my eye is drawn to the expanse of the sky. Next, my eye goes to the wheat. And in the end, I focus on the house. So now I've got a plan that can help us when we begin to do our description. from that summary, I know exactly what it is I want to teach you.